Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to talk about an interesting metric that was brought up by CNN talking about the direction of the country. Are we on the right track or the wrong track? And those polls notoriously normally are always very bad, meaning a lot of people think we're on the wrong track pretty much no matter what. But it is remarkable when you compare just how bad they are to the incumbent party winning versus them losing. And you look and you see, and CNN's done a comparison based on how bad they are right now. It's almost impossible. It would be a total outlier if Kamala Harris, part of the incumbent party, part of the Biden administration, if she won. You can see 28%. This is just, I don't know if this is an overall average. I'm going to take a look at the total average on Real Clear Politics, but you can see it says 28% think the U.S. is on the right track. Average when the incumbent party lost versus won. So normally when you're talking about an incumbent president and you're around 40 to 42%, somewhere in that range, you're going to win re-election. Because again, when it comes to the right track versus wrong track, 42% is actually really good, even though you might think, well, that's bad because still almost 60% say it's the wrong track, but that's good. And then average when they lost, 25% was the average. Right now we're at 28%. And when you take a look at Real Clear Politics, you can see the average is right around 28%. And that is with, I believe, a little bit of a partisan shift, which with us getting closer to the election. Even with that boost that they've gotten, they're still only at 28%. You can see that the right track versus wrong track. I mean, just a few, like about 2 months ago, it was around 25%. And then I do believe there's been a galvanized partisan shift where the liberals are saying, we're on the right track because they're going to vote liberal. And that's just, they're the incumbent party. So they're going to say that and be more galvanized now that we are closer to the election. But you can see it still is sitting, just like CNN said, an average of 28%. And then also another thing that they showed, if you fast forward this a little bit, right here it says, U.S. is on the right track, incumbent party wins, just 28%. You can see the comparison to the incumbent party winning. Where were they at in terms of right track versus wrong track? This metric, you can see right now Kamala would be at 28%. If she won, that would be totally shocking when you look at a metric like this, because the lowest we've seen, I guess, in the last 10 election cycles, or since this has been tracked, is 39% saying they're on the right track. Right now it's at 28%. That's 11% lower than the lowest we've seen an incumbent party win with that bad of direction of country approval, meaning it was only 39% in 96 when the incumbent party won re-election. Right now it's only 28%. In 88, it was 41%. In 04, it was 41%. In 2012, it was 42%. In 84, it was 47%. So it would be very weird if Kamala won based off of this metric. So when you look at the 28%, and then they try and give liberals a hope when, in this segment by saying, oh, but the midterms, and it's basically saying that Democrats had historically bad right track, wrong track metrics, but still performed well in the midterms. I think the midterms was an outlier, and the polls show that the midterms, they should have been a bit different. The generic ballot was good for Republicans in the midterms. It just didn't work out when, you look at the states. But either way, I do think this is very good news. And there might be even more people galvanized, but I don't know. This is not even factoring in the terrible response to that hurricane where they treated those people so horribly because many of them were rural Trump supporters. And I think you're going to see Biden's approval rating go down because of that hurricane response, even though it's already minus 13, minus 14. That's actually up compared to where it was, believe it or not, because of how bad Biden is. When he announced he wasn't running, liberals started to approve of him even more. They're like, thank you. You suck so bad. We're going to raise your approval rating because you announced you're not going to run for re-election. So he was minus 17, minus 18, minus 19 after the debate. And then he went up when he said, I'm so bad at my job, I have to say I'm not running again. And then they're like, yeah, you suck so bad, we're going to raise your approval rating. That's what happened. They approved of him when he said he wasn't running again because of how bad he is. And so you've got the direction of the country here. Look at this. It's been horrible for a while. At a certain point, that was back in 2021. That was really before any major event. Right when Biden was entering the White House, they gave him definitely a big chance to show something, and really nothing's happened. His approval rating on average is worse than Trump at this point. It is pretty remarkable, which is crazy considering 90% of the media was against Trump. Not only against him, they were like, he's Hitler, he's terrible. We haven't seen the media hate somebody like they hate Trump, and you can just see the recent results. These are all negative 20, negative 30. This would be the number to look at, whatever this is, because that's what CNN was talking about, the 28%. So you've seen some polls that maybe are a little bit higher than 28%. I think that's because we're getting closer to the election. but in general, you're seeing mid 20s, mid 30s, somewhere around that. If it's not 39% on average, because that was the lowest any incumbents won we've seen recently was 39%, and even the highest we've seen is 36%. Believe it or not, it is Rasmussen, but everything else is below 36%. You got a 35 from Rasmussen, but YouGov at 26, Yahoo at 28, New York Times at 30, Harvard Harris at 30. So it's interesting. Yahoo does a poll on this. I haven't even seen Yahoo do polls on like the general election at all, but they do have a poll on that. So this is really bad news, and it's an interesting metric to look at, and it just lends credence to the idea that this is a total charade. Nobody likes these people. Nobody likes this administration. Kamala Harris had a negative 16 approval rating when she was thrust into the job with the really, I mean, they just put her there. She didn't earn it or do anything. And her approval rating suddenly goes up to basically even off of nothing, but still nobody approves of what's happening in this country. Nobody approves of their administration. You've got Biden, you got Kamala Harris doing a rally or something, and then Biden goes live like 2 minutes later and steals all the thunder from Harris and says that Kamala and him, they're like right at the hip. She's part of the administration. He's killing Kamala's campaign. And people are like, well, he's doing it on purpose because of how they screwed him. I mean, they did screw him. They did force him out. But I mean, it's hard to say whether or not he's actually doing that because he's so cognitively declined. But either way, these are really, really good numbers, I would say, for Donald Trump's prospects at being the president. And then we do also have this update when it comes to North Carolina voter registration. Republicans have cut into the Democrats' lead again. They've gained another 8,000. A lot of people registering with third party. The Democrats do have an advantage, but North Carolina and some other swing states especially, they do have a ton of people registering third party. So like in 2020, Trump won the state. 2016, he won the state. I believe he didn't have a voter registration advantage in either of those elections. Certainly not in 2020, because I know basically every single state outside of like two really liberal states, the voter registration since 2020 has trended very far to the right. So this is good news, getting close to the election, even just change from September. So this is just almost like 5 days, and we're getting data here that Republicans are gaining ground in terms of the registration, plus 8,000. Again, you do have a lot of people registering with no party, so that's going to be very, very important when it comes to North Carolina. That's really the big key, 45K. A lot of people might lean one way or another, but still, I guess, register third party, or this might be a thing where they might just default you to the third party if you don't declare Republican or Democrat or something like that, depending on how the voter registration process is done. That could also be a thing when it comes to that. Do you remember these headlines? Trump coming back to Butler, it's amazing. Gunman dies in attack. I mean, it's hard for, like, I can't even respond to that. Like, this was after, look at it, July 14th, the day after. Gunman dies in attack. It's like a troll. 1,000% that's a troll headline. That's in Denver, the Denver Post. I mean, but whoever made that, I mean, that's, it's just like, you can't even, like, there's nothing to say. Like, oh, but either way, guys, I just wanted to talk about, you can see this is Biden talking about him being on the same page. We're singing from the same song sheet. I don't know. That's a weird phrase. She helped pass all the laws. She was a major player in everything we've done. And then people are speculating that, well, because they had a coup against Biden, he is kind of giving, a gift to the Democrats, a gift, right? Kind of vaulting up Kamala when they wanted to choose someone else by endorsing her immediately. And it seems like now he's maybe not helping Kamala by saying that they're at the hip when Kamala is seemingly distancing herself from the Biden administration, or at least trying to. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.